And I think we even talk about it in that video, like that I'm open to showing, open to showing our cannabis consumption. For me, cannabis has helped alleviate anxiety. It helps me be creative at certain times. It just, it's Seth Rogen talks about it in his book Yearbook. Like to him, it's like he needs it. It's like wearing shoes for him, the way that you wouldn't complain someone else needs shoes. It's not like an addiction or a crutch. It can take plenty of time off of it. I'm a bigger asshole when I do, but just gets me real heated to see somebody throwing up an ignorant comment like that and then unsubscribing. I mean, given that he was such a big fan prior, I'd like to think like maybe he's still listening out there, my guy. But yeah, I would love to have like an actual conversation with someone like that.
I just love how his argument immediately falls apart. It's one of the best movies ever, but I lost all professional respect for you. Pick a lane, pal. But also, I'm like, what is the hang up that we're lazy? I spent 4 fucking years of my life, working on this. The hardest I've ever worked on one thing in my entire life. And guess what? There was a lot of weed in there.
So, you having fun yet?
Welcome to this episode of the Late Game Podcast. I am actor, producer, co-creator Jeffrey M. Zucker, along with co-creator, writer, director, and beautiful human being Jeff Tyner.
Always delightful to see you. I'm a little sore today, as are, I think, you.
Likewise, yeah. So we had our game last night. Not too unsimilar from Polly's. We had a tight bench. There were 3, though, so one more than the Polly's had. I mean, they were almost 4.
Yeah, poor Addison forgot his skates and I think stepped out on the ice for like 10 seconds of warm-ups before deciding not to use this other person's pair of skates, which I personally wouldn't have even done that much, but I appreciate the effort. But like skates are the thing that you just can't substitute.
It's definitely the worst thing to forget. And yeah, I appreciate him trying because it would have been nice to have another skater. I think it probably would have, we could have won the game probably with one more skater. Losing 5-4. Yeah, he's very good. I mean, it's harder in other people's skates, but yeah, that was sad. I felt bad for him. And then, tight bench, which there's some things I like about that. There's some pros. I would have rather have 1 or 2 more, but you do get in a better rhythm than if you have like 3 full lines.
Yeah, 1 more forward would have been the dream because then we would have had even lines. Like I had several like 3-4 minute shifts because I feel like the times I would look to the bench, I would see someone had just got it would have just been a 2-person change. And I played that way because of it. I really conserved my energy and was opportunistic with it. And worked out okay. Like it was a really fun game. Like I got nervous when I saw they had 2 kids that I assume were active club members for Grand Valley State. I know that Grand Valley State logo because our Pizza Boys goalie, Chris Moore, went there and rocks that jersey. It's an iconic look. But so yeah, I got worried when I saw 2 youngins with the same gear. I was like, oh God. But they got their points, but they played really chill, like about as chill as you can expect a kids that good, that in shape at that age to play. Like it was a pleasant surprise for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Intimidating, but they were relatively chill about it. And I mean, we went up early, and then the whole game was close. I think 5-4 was the final. You had a fucking hat trick, which is cool as hell.
Thank you, sir.
My favorite was that the first one? The one that I'm about
to
talk about?
The first goal was probably the only that was like the only pretty one. And I still got like my feet taken out, so it wasn't quite as cool, I think.
I mean, it looked cool from the bench, like top shelf while you were going down. So, I mean, that's always a good look.
I guess that
I get it up in the net while you're kind of going down. Yeah. That felt good. And yeah, I mean, I had at least a couple pluses. I mean, I probably had some minuses too, but let's forget about those. But I felt pretty good overall with my defensive game.
Oh, dude, you were solid. Like, I remember you had a really good play when we were trying to get the puck. Because, after like halfway through the first period, I feel like we were in third period stamina mode the rest of the game. So, like, there were some times where they held the zone a while, and then it's like, that turns into a scramble just to ice the fucking puck and get a whistle, to breathe. and there was a play at the blue line. I remember you good body position. You had the battle. Like the first attempt didn't quite get it, but you stayed with it. So had a couple of good. Almost had you for like what would have been, I think, a pretty high probable goal if I got the pass to you, but I didn't expect one of them youngins to swoop in.
Yeah, one of those GV boys.
Yeah, it was a good game. Like we had some shots, we had some chances.
Derek was awesome in that. Like he had some big saves.
I fucking I was back trying to back check, trying to be defensively responsible, and there's a rebound right in front of me, and I'm dead ass tired, and I try to throw it out, and of course I do the thing. Like I feel like we as a team did this like 20 times, which is like throw the clearing attempt directly to one of their guys, you know. And I forced Derek to make a real sexy glove save. But yeah, no, he was fucking locked in.
It makes such a big difference when you have a goalie you can count on in there, though. Like, you know, if those saves that I'm thinking of as big saves had all gone in, it just would have been a totally different game.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I feel like we had some close ones, but I feel like we relatively converted our chances. But then again, I guess I'm surprised Reese didn't score any. You know, he had some good shots, but yeah, it's just the way it went. Their goalie was pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, we were tired. We could tell. But overall, good game. It was good to skate. I'm excited to get back to the Friday skate this week.
Same. I feel like I finally got my legs under me a little bit. I'm definitely feeling out of shape, lungs-wise, as I'm getting back into it, mile high style. But, yeah, I got a little bit of a heater going, so that's nice.
I love it. And you're wearing a Young Geno's hat, and we've talked about the hats a couple times on the show, but these are now available on thelategame.com or store.thelategame.com, whichever way you want to go. We got beautiful Polly's hats, beautiful Geno's hats. We don't have a ton of them, so if you want it, go ahead and place your order, and we'll get those out as soon as we can. But yeah, I'm excited to have those out there.
Same. I mean, top quality. You know, the Gitch guys we met in Minnesota. So that was cool to make a contact at one of our late game events and then turn that into late game merch. And they're really dope. They fit great, high quality stuff.
Yeah, agreed. Love the hats. So definitely check it out. We've got other stuff on the site too. And then, you know, I know we both had a little bit of time to watch this last week. What have you been up to watching wise?
Oh man, I've been lighting a fire. I mentioned Megan and I started the X-Men movies after Deadpool and Wolverine. I think I'd only seen the first two to that point. So since then, I've watched X-Men Last Stand, which is the Brett Ratner directed third of that first trilogy, which was kind of meh, but still fun parts. And then there's Origin Wolverine, which I think gets a little hate on. I feel like there's a lot of different reasons it gets hate. Like I had never seen it other than like the one scene at the end of Deadpool 2 when like Ryan Reynolds is bouncing around to his past like actor and character failures. I knew the Deadpool that was in that. I think he's really credited mostly as Wade Wilson, not Deadpool. I guess a little bit at the end, but it's couldn't be further from the Deadpool we know from the Deadpool movies. And I know that character meant a lot to him, so I think that just adds a little more layers to knowing how big of a deal it was for him to eventually, you know, leak that test footage and get those movies rolling. But I really liked it. Like, I really liked it. I can point out the stuff that looks bad. Like, there's really bad CG, you know, the claws, Wolverine's claws, they look really bad. And there's some other silly stuff. I remember seeing that's a movie, Z, I don't know if you remember this. I want to say that's like 2010, 9, I don't know, somewhere around then. That movie leaked and it's like 80% finished stage. So it's like a lot of unfinished VFX shots. So I remember that was when I was in my torrenting days and I downloaded that and I was fascinated by it. You know, just like that's a look at a movie you don't normally get. And to just kind of the fact that I never tried to see it at that time once it came out to like compare it, you know, is kind of funny. But you know, that kind of completes a little journey of me, like kind of stacking that up. And I just thought that was really cool. And like Liev Schreiber plays his brother in that movie. And like, they're both kind of, I don't think immortal's the right word, but you know, they've been alive for like 200 years. And I remember the trailer for it I was like, I actually wanted to see it because I thought it was so cool. It showed Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber like fighting in like all of these wars, like the Civil War, World War One, World War II, Vietnam. And I was like thinking that's a huge chunk of the movie. And it's literally the title credits. Like it couldn't be glossed over faster. But there were some really fun performances in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely up for going back and checking these out. It's cool to see your thoughts on them at this point. Glad that they mostly hold up.
Oh yeah, like Last Stand is the one that apparently gets shit on a lot by the and like Brett Ratner is a pretty easy guy to root against because he's kind of a douchebag. But I still liked it, you know. Like I'm not deep enough invested in the lore to know how it's all fucked up, you know. Like I just watch it as a movie, and I still thought it was a good time.
Nice. And there were other X-Men movies on your list as well, right?
We've been going deep, so I remember I was in college when First Class came out, and it was a huge deal. Like the trailer was everywhere. I saw everything in college. Shout out to the Bowling Green Mall, the movie theater with your student ID was like $2.25. So I literally saw everything, and I think it's hilarious that I didn't see this. I just like superhero stuff was not grabbing me at the time, but you know, still I saw so many shittier movies than this, so it's kind of funny I didn't see it. But I've been talking a lot about this to you off mic, but like James, like the casting's great all up and down because it takes place. It's like, you know, it's their younger selves from like the 60s is where that kind of reboot starts. But dude, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, like you see Michael Fassbender everywhere, and I'm still of the belief that we're not seeing enough of him. Like he's just so fucking good. And it's so easy with the costumes and the settings and the stakes for these movies to be silly and stupid, like with that suspension of disbelief. But what makes these movies, these First Class and Days of Future Past, so good is like the caliber of actor. Like, dude, Fassbender, I can't think of off the top of my head a better performance I've seen out of him than as Magneto. And like, you know, that's splitting hairs because they're all so good, but like, dude, like it made me feel all of the emotions, weep, like filled with rage, badass. Like I can't say enough good things about him, man. So yeah, that, and we just finished Days of Future Past. Yeah. And so yeah, I can't decide out of First Class and Days of Future Past, which I like more. But they were both like 10 out of 10 for me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely want to go back and watch those. I feel like I've heard good things about those movies in the past.
I was telling Megan that, like, I remember at the time, so this is Days of Future Past is 2014, same year as Winter Soldier, which is my favorite MCU movie. And I wasn't in deep with the MCU then, but I watched the Cap movies because I like Captain America. And I remember at that time thinking it's really cool. All of the MCU stuff is interconnected, and there's this connective tissue. And I just knew anecdotally that the X-Men movies were murkier, like they didn't all quite fit together right. And I guess that was enough for me to just be like, I'm not really interested. You know, I'll get to it eventually, I guess. And I think it's funny, you know, we're here now, and there's this Marvel fatigue. The MCU is like kind of had some duds, and you know, I have fallen off fully post Endgame. You know, like I've watched a few things and I've liked it, and I've wanted to watch more, but just I've expressed this to you. It feels like homework, you know. So like, I think this is the right time for me to be coming to this because it's different, and I like that it's a little more self-contained.
Yeah, interesting. Did you agree with your, you know, assessment you had in the past that it was a little murkier in terms of the connections?
I mean, that stuff still exists for sure, because like the thing that's confusing, I think if you take a step back, is like, so they do things in trilogies on this X-Men side. So it's like you have the first three movies, X-Men, X2, and Last Stand. And then you have this new trilogy that I'm on with First Class, Days of Future Past, and then Apocalypse. And then in the middle of this is like a trilogy of Wolverine movies that aren't quite connected. There's Origins Wolverine. There's The Wolverine, which we haven't watched yet. And then there's Logan. And I still don't I'm assuming Apocalypse will clue me in on exactly how Logan fits into this stuff. Like Logan as a standalone movie is fucking great. But yeah, it doesn't take me out of it by any stretch, but I do kind of catch myself at times wondering does this affect this kind of a thing?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. When the time is right, I hope to jump on that train as well.
It's less daunting than like trying to catch up to the MCU. You know, I'll put it that way. But yeah, I have some theater ones I'll talk about in a little bit. But what are you watching right now?
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I know I personally struggle with comparing myself to others, especially in the social media world. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. Therapy has been tremendously beneficial to me, and I think it can help most people, traumatized or not, be the best versions of themselves. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Yeah, and I mean, on the MCU, I mean, we've probably talked about it on here a little bit, but they've certainly acknowledged that they overdid it a bit, and like I feel like they're trying to rein it in. It's I've been sad to read some of like what Deadpool and Wolverine was supposed to be before all the stuff with the actor for Kang happened, where they like wrote him out and stuff.
I had heard that like headlines and comments that was a thing, but I didn't really know the extent of it. So it kind of seems like that. What's her name? Cassandra Nova is just like the replacement.
Yeah, it wasn't 100% clear to me, maybe, but it sounds like they just completely reworked that Deadpool Wolverine story, and it had a lot more to do with that previously. But
Interesting. It sounds like a lot of Avengers stuff had to do the same thing, like completely
I wish that
rejigger
they
it.
would have just recast him because I think the story concepts were pretty cool with that character.
Well, plus it's the multiverse, so like you don't even need to
Yeah,
explain it. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like, but you know, do what you got to do. Like, I don't know enough about the comics to really have an opinion on what direction to take things.
yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I don't really either. But yeah, I mean, in terms of my watching, I mean, while we're on franchises, I saw that the Acolyte Star Wars show got canceled after a season, and we talked about it a little bit on here. It's just like it's them trying something different, and I like that about it. And it had things that weren't good, but it was like the Star Wars purists were so anti, and Disney just bowed to them. I guess. I mean, I think it would have been interesting to see where this could have gone. I thought it got better as it went along. So I was a little sad to see that they're not going to give it a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's a shame to like not at least give you a shot at redemption. You know, like I feel
It
like
had a
so
good
many
teaser
shows.
at the end too.
It's like a lot of good shows make a big leap from seasons 1 to 2. So it's like it's a bummer they don't get the shot. But I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it both ways, especially with how stuff's been going in the Disney world in general. Um, and then well, again, while we're on sort of, it's not as much a franchise; it's more one show. But Umbrella Academy, another comic book related show, just finished the series. The most recent season came out relatively recently, and I think I mentioned in one of these episodes that just like I read a lot of people shitting on this last season, and like it was okay. It was entertaining, but like I get that it didn't satisfy the itch of like the whole series, if you will. But I was satisfied with it. It was kind of a lazy ending.
And that's like the for sure ending place for it too. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the series finale. So it's like a little bit of a letdown, but I enjoyed the series overall. And then, speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine, I didn't know it at the time, but I ended up watching two more Ryan Reynolds movies that are directed by the same guy, Sean Levy. I watched Adam Project on Netflix because I forget where it came up, but I read that it was, time travel, interesting take, and that always interests me. So, yeah, watch that. And I thought it was pretty good, enjoyed it, thoughtful, emotional. And then that just made me think of Free Guy that I'd never watched and had always meant to watch. And so I watched that, and I really liked Free Guy. It like made me feel like a kind of like a new age Truman Show, but like slightly less insane because everyone around him didn't know also. In Free Guy, so maybe like a little dose of Inception vibes in there, but It was, yeah, I thought it was really thoughtful and fun, and it had like a good vibe, sort of with like the startup element of it, and then Taika Waititi as the bad guy was pretty great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I've got it on Blu-ray. I don't think I've rewatched it, but I remember having a really good time with it. And I saw just the other day that the Colossus, no, the Juggernaut from Deadpool and Wolverine is the dude from like the big buff Ryan Reynolds from Free Guy.
That's
Yeah, like
awesome.
that's the same guy, but like without Ryan Reynolds' face grafted on him.
Right, right. Oh, yep, I remember that. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, it made me want to check out more stuff by this director. I mean, obviously, I like this director with Ryan Reynolds, it appears, but curious as to his other stuff too.
I'll say another side effect of watching all these X-Men movies is I have now retroactively recognized so many of these mutants that show up in Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, like I'm not going to even try to like the Devil guy, Arizel, I think I don't know, like to just one of many. Like I think in some cases they're recast, and others they're not. Like Pyro, the guy with the flames, he's in like the first trilogy, and that's yeah. It's fun to see things kind of in things I guess I should have already known.
Yep. And like this just reminded me of a funny aspect of Free Guy. I guess it came out like right after the Marvel and Disney stuff, or yeah, like right after like Disney bought Marvel or whatever, and like so there was like a Captain America shield and a lightsaber, and they made like sort of that Deadpool style jokes to the camera, breaking the fourth wall type stuff.
Chris Evans in both of those movies, Deadpool and Wolverine and Free Guy, like just so much fun, just like pure delight for every second on screen. Yeah, that's fun.
Agreed. So yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, not, still watching Sunny, Joanna's show. That's been awesome. I think we've got one or two left in the season. Hopefully that'll get picked up again. I need to check out whatever the most recent one of those is. And yeah, otherwise that's it on the watching agenda at the moment.
Oh yeah, so I saw two movies in the theater over the weekend, and I'll start with the good. Alien Romulus, the new Alien movie, was fucking awesome. Um, I I've said this, I feel like, for all of the ones since Prometheus, but like feels like it could be the third best after Alien and Aliens. But like I also really like Alien Cubed and Alien to the Third Power, and then Alien Resurrection. Like I like them all. Like I really enjoy them. But this was definitely more. This one imitated the original the most of all of them, and it was really fun, really well done, really well. They used prosthetics, miniatures, practical effects. They minimized their CG usage, and it really, really shows. It's fucking awesome. Yeah, that was a really good time.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like a fun like challenge to deal with as a filmmaker, to like limit the CGI in a movie like that.
I think I read that he got the effects, as much of the effects team as he could from Aliens with James Cameron. And it shows, man. Like it was really fun. I haven't finished Civil War. I was watching it I rented it to watch on a plane, and then didn't finish it, and then the rental expired, and I just haven't gotten back. But the younger girl from that movie is like the main girl in this one, and she's really good in it. It did a really fun, like it didn't overly depend on it. It didn't beat you over the head with it, but there was a lot of subtle ways to connect it to all of the movies, pretty much. Like not just like brought in Prometheus, brought in all. It was fun. It was a really good time. I can't think. Have you seen any of those?
I have not. I'm not big on like scary stuff.
Yeah, I would say the first one is like the most like true horror. Like the xenomorph itself is obviously real icky and gross, and like the face hugger of it all is really gross. But like, I think if you watched any of them, I would say either Alien Covenant, because Danny McBride's in it. That's a little scary. Or Aliens it's like more of an action movie. It's really fun.
Okay, I'll certainly consider that down the road.
Yeah, I can't imagine we'll get to it too quick. But also just shout out to the late Bill Paxton and Aliens. It's as good as it gets. But on Friday, Megan and I saw the M. Night Shyamalan movie Trap. Had a phenomenal trailer. Like I loved that trailer. So I was cautious just because, M. Night is real hit or miss and a lot more misses than hits lately. Like he hasn't quite. I haven't seen Split, and I hear Split's good. I loved Unbreakable, loved Signs, loved Sixth Sense. Like Sixth Sense is obviously his pinnacle, but like I was still really pumped for it. And like I'm on the Josh Hartnett wagon too, man. Like I love, like it's so good to see him kind of getting a second act, because he's so good in it. But like I try to be positive. Like when I go to a movie, I try not to have expectations and I try to just enjoy it for what it is, you know? But what pisses me off so much about this movie, and I mean pisses me off, like I was angry, is that it's not like me just saying this movie sucks. It's that the movie like M. Night Shyamalan actively tricks you to like support his daughter's music career. Because it like the setup, if you're unfamiliar, is like it's kind of like shades of JCVD and Sudden Death, of like the whole movie takes place at like an arena, at like a Taylor Swift concert, basically. And there's a fictitious Taylor Swift. So when I saw the trailer, I just assumed it was a made up pop star character. And then the opening credits say that it's whatever her name is, Shyamalan's right there. And I'm just like, oh God, no. And there's like 10 full length tracks that are played live on the stage that you can't skip it. You just have to sit there and watch the performance. And then if that's not bad enough, like I don't give a shit about spoiling this because I hope people don't pay money for it. Then forget about Josh Hartnett. She becomes the star of the movie and the hero of the movie in the third act, and she cannot act. And so that's the bad. I got to get that out of the way. It was fucking horrible, that part of it. But 25% of the movie was like exactly what I wanted. It was Josh Hartnett doing like Hitman stuff. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Hitman video games, but it's a lot of like creating diversions, like stealing a cop's walkie-talkie, stealing a security badge, getting into restricted areas. Like, and that's what made it frustrating too. You would get into those scenes where like you're loving it. Like the girl who played his daughter was great. Josh Hartnett was great. You're like, okay, we're done with the concert. Now the movie starts. But like every time you got momentum, here's 3 full-length songs that you can't skip.
I mean, I just
and then yeah.
Oh my, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing, but it's like clearly he was just like, especially from the trailer, which I watched and thought looked interesting, like he's tricking people to come watch his daughter's concert and like throwing in a little bit of Josh Hartnett. I think it's like insane. Like when I read that it was his daughter, I was like, okay, like as long as he's tasteful about it, like she's a background part of this Josh Hartnett movie. Fine. You know, hopefully, you know, I was like, he can't be showing full songs and shit, but to hear that he showed tons of them, it's just like, it was a trick.
And like in the first act, like in between one of these full length songs, she takes the mic and starts talking about God knows what. And I'm just like, oh, she's a terrible actor. So that's why we're doing this up front. We're going to get her music out of the way and then the movie will start. And then it's literally it's like the FBI consulted with Taylor Swift to bring down like a mass murderer. Like it's nonsense. Like it's like as if she is the point man on the investigation. But one last thing that was solid gold was Kid Cudi is in the movie for like 5 minutes with like silken, long blonde hair, and he is nothing but gold, man. It was such a welcome like oasis of a vacation from the rest of this movie. So yeah, I think that's the most angry I've ever been in a movie theater in my life. Because like even if I like the IP, like I don't place expectations on to that degree because you're never going to enjoy anything if like that's how you go in the movies. But I've never seen anything like it, and God knows I hope I don't again.
It's so ridiculous. Is the Kid Cudi part funny on its own? Like just we watched it out of context?
Oh yeah, it's definitely more. You're more grateful for it having like sat through the movie. So it's like, I think you're even more pumped to see it that way. But like, if you watch just his scenes out of context, it's still hilarious, man. He saved the movie. Yeah. He saved me like being a little more angry, I guess.
All right. Well, That is ridiculous. I would be curious to have seen the version of the movie that had the notes that like it can't be a concert for his daughter because it
Dude.
sounds
Well, see,
cool
he
the rest of it. But
self-finances all of his movies,
right,
so like
so
that's
he didn't
how
take notes.
Yeah, so no, he doesn't have to take anyone's notes apparently. So
Yeah.
that's what you
Oh
get.
my god. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I will not be seeing that. Um,
You're
Hopefully, we'll
better
have
off.
some more Josh Hartnett thrillers coming our way soon.
Yeah, that's I think that's why I am so mad is because like he's so perfect in the movie, and like to give us such small morsels of that is what's frustrating. Because like God, I can't say enough good things about his performance, but he's barely in the movie.
Like, I wonder if the script just read as if it was going to gloss over the concert, and like,
That's what me
but
and
it
Megan
got
were
cut
talking about.
differently.
That 100. My guess is the script. There's no way the script can account for these full length songs. I
No,
just like that's yeah,
it's
100%.
just like show pop star playing song or whatever, and then
Yep,
it's like, oh yeah, this movie's good.
lady,
Like,
and that's and one more thing. It's not just that he does this with his daughter. It's that he forces all of these young girl actresses to learn all of her lyrics and sing along as if she's Taylor Swift too. Like
oh
it's there's layers to how insane it is.
oh, I wonder if any of those people became fans of hers.
I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not even commenting on the quality of the music either. Like,
It's is she like a child or like in her 20s?
I honestly can't tell. I
Okay.
genuinely don't know. Like
Since she's
at
a
her
kid, I kind of
at
just feel
her,
bad for her getting
I
put
kind
in
of feel
this
bad for her no
situation.
matter what. Honestly,
Fair.
like I think that's something where in a few years she's going to look back at that and cringe out of her skin.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Lines and odds are available on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved. Yeah, probably. Well, there's an issue that arose that I wanted to bring up. And, so I was going through some old emails, like YouTube emails from whatever email address we use for YouTube. And so like all of our like comments and subscribers, whatever, and they're just like kind of quickly archiving. And I came across a comment I didn't recognize. And I say recognize because like usually I go and look at the comments. And I guess this one had been swiftly hidden by Dan, our social media guru on our team. And I certainly understand why he did. I would have rather responded directly to it, but I couldn't help but bring it up on our podcast. So, anyone that's listening to this knows that we've been doing a little bit more content, putting some more stuff out. And, we're trying to do kind of like this hangout content, just show kind of the real people behind the late game, our vibes. And so we released a video about, just us hanging out at the office with the guys playing Jenga. It was silly, just being ourselves, talking. And, I'll preface this with like most anyone that knows much about me at all, and I've certainly talked about it on this podcast, like big cannabis consumer, big cannabis advocate, big drug policy reform advocate, former member of the board at Marijuana Policy Project. And so, I have a pretty particular stance when it comes to cannabis, etc. And so this guy wrote this comment. One of the best movies made, unfortunately by a bunch of stoners, sad face. Lost all professional respect for you right here. If you don't understand, then you never will. Try growing up. Unsubscribed. So I found this in the email and I just like was kind of dumbfounded, but like immediately went to look to see if it was there so I could respond. It wasn't. And so first things first, the movie was like one of the best movies made. That is high fucking praise. But that's like, and you found out that we are cannabis consumers and now the movie's not good anymore. Well, what it should have and could have taught you is that your stigma around quote stoners is wrong. You know, people that consume cannabis can accomplish as much or more than anyone else. So that was super frustrating. I mean, just the ignorance behind this take. And it just shows the rampant stigma still alive in our society around cannabis consumption. And I think we even talk about it in that video, like that I'm open to showing, open to showing our cannabis consumption. For me, cannabis has helped alleviate anxiety. It helps me be creative at certain times. It just, it's Seth Rogen talks about it in his book Yearbook. Like to him, it's like he needs it. It's like wearing shoes for him. The way that you wouldn't complain someone else needs shoes. It's not like an addiction or crutch. It can take plenty of time off of it. I'm a bigger asshole when I do, but just gets me real heated to see somebody throwing up an ignorant comment like that and then unsubscribing. I mean, given that he was such a big fan prior, I'd like to think like maybe he's still listening out there, my guy. But yeah, I would love to have like an actual conversation with someone like that.
I just love how his argument immediately falls apart. It's one of the best movies ever, but I lost all professional respect for you. Pick a lane, pal. But also, I'm like, what is the hang up that we're lazy? I spent 4 fucking years of my life, mate, like working on this. The hardest I've ever worked on one thing in my entire life. And guess what? There was a lot of weed in there. And like
it wouldn't have happened without cannabis.
Yeah. Like I like the way you characterized it of like helps you be creative at times. Like I do think that can be a bit of a broad strokes like misnomer that just like I'm high, now I'm creative. Like I have to be like there are times when I don't want to work.
You do it intentionally.
Like, yeah. Like I'm
right. You consume intentionally. No, based on what you want to do. Sorry.
No, you're good. Like there's times where I need to be a little more analytically focused, and then there's times where I do want to get into a different headspace and see what happens. And like, I'd say in the overall script writing process, it was about maybe 50-50 or 40-60. The 40 being high, 60 not high when I was doing writing. And like, but also at the end of the day, like, I mean, us vape, hitting our vape, smoking a joint at the end of the day before we started planning, for the next day when shooting the movie, like as someone who's had 2 pretty severe knee surgeries, like I remember in my early to mid 20s, I just graduated college and I had an ex that was really shitty about me smoking weed. She just didn't get it. She wouldn't do that publicly because she probably was like, oh, I don't want to come out, I don't want people to think I'm a loser, but tried to make this like argument that I was different when I was high, with a negative connotation. And so I didn't really smoke for like, I don't know, a year or so. And in that 1 year, I drank so much more. And my life was not fucking better, even a little bit, like it was worse. And it was worse from a body pain standpoint. I hated how I had a Gamecock podcast at the time. And I was drinking whiskey while I was doing it with Aaron. And when it came time to edit the episode, I cringed out of my fucking skin at me being drunk doing this episode. Like I fucking hated the way I sounded, the way I acted. I go back, I had the raw footage to that hangout where we're all smoking, where the comment took place. That not even 1/1000% of that feeling came in when I'm watching myself.
Yeah, it was so warm,
right? Like it's
a bunch
just
of buddies hanging out.
Exactly, man. Like, and
when you talk about the alcohol,
right? That's the thing. I bet you if we all had beers, that comment's not coming.
That's the craziest fucking part of it. Is like that if we'd been drinking beer, liquor, or whatever, this guy probably wouldn't have said shit, but we would have been way more fucked up. We would have felt like dog shit. Like I rarely drink these days, and it's part of it is because cannabis has filled that void for me. but also it's because of how shitty it makes me feel. So like I was on a trip last week and like drank a little bit with some friends and I slept like shit that night. And so it's just like, we know that this guy probably wouldn't have said anything if it was alcohol, and it's just so ignorant and backwards.
And hypocritical and just...
This rant is unofficially brought to you by Dip Devices. Someone hit my little dipper.
Fuck yeah. And just, yeah, like to circle back one more time to that ex, it's like, I really thought about it when she said I was a different person and I was somehow worse. So but it all stemmed from her like walking in and smelling it. So it's like, so then I tried an experiment where I pretended like I was in high school or some shit to cover my tracks. You know, like I smoked it outside. I washed my hands, put in eye drops, and I did that like 5 times in a row. Crickets, like not one, you know, like not one call out of I'm different, you know?
That's stigma to a T.
Right? It's, you know, we grew up in the Bible Belt where, you know, reefer madness like sort of is instilled in the masses I think a little more severely. And like I bought it. I think you've said this too. Like we bought into that growing up, like with the DARE programs and stuff. It was just all drugs, you know, like, then you can think for yourself. I mean, I still remember, you know, shout out to Matt Lee from our friends and family screening. After my first knee surgery, which was the most severe of the two, you know, they say it takes 72 hours to get addicted to opioids. And like to a T, like I was taking 4 classes that semester and I failed 2 of them because I couldn't even sit through a class, you know? And I had way too easy of access. It was mostly Percocet, some Vicodin. And like you know, I hated the way my life was at that time. Like I just couldn't focus. I couldn't function. Like pain just overrode everything. And I was smoking recreationally at that time. Like I don't think I had even bought weed for myself at that point. Like I just had an apartment. So friends would come by and I'd smoke with them. So that's how I viewed it. And Super High Me had come out, Doug Benson's Super High Me. And there's a lot of talk that was the first time I ever heard of medicinal marijuana. You know, this was a lot of it was kind of not a lot of it, but there was definitely a portion of that movie that focuses on like California legislation. And at that time, I'm just like, I get it. You know, like this is just a loophole for legal weed. Like that's how I did not view it medicinal at all. And Matt Lee, who had a broken femur the season before, he's the one who opened my eyes to like use cannabis for pain management. And it was a really, really difficult time to wean myself off of Percocet. But like, I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that like weed saved my life there. Like who knows how fucking dark, like we see that shit all the time in sports. Like that's a, you know, there's public opinion on opioids. I think is finally turning and people are realizing just because a doctor prescribes it doesn't mean it's safe. But like, you know, this is 2007 and like it was easy to get then. And like my life is 1,000 fucking times better because of cannabis and not the quote unquote legal ways in South Carolina, you know?
Yep. So yeah, if we're going to be labeled stoners, we'll fucking take it. And if that guy happens to be listening and like wants to talk further on it, we're down, we're available. Find us on all our socials, Late Game Movie.
Should DM him the link to this. I doubt he'll listen.
I mean, I was looking for like a way to DM, and I don't know if that's possible on YouTube. And so I found him on like a couple of. I couldn't find him on any site that I actually have an account to. Like he was on like Twitch or something, and like one other thing that I like don't have an account for. But like I couldn't find him like on the platforms where I would have been comfortable messaging. But
maybe leave a comment on a video on YouTube of his. Maybe
I think he has one video, but yeah. I'm open to it. Let's see if anything comes from this, but you know, if there's still a few people listening, we appreciate it. And
sorry for the soapbox.
No, well, but you know, it's our soapbox, so we'll do as we please. And then
we can mark chapters in the playhead on YouTube for like, this is our weed rant.
Oh, I was already planning on it, honestly, because cool. I usually do that for the interview time. And speaking of interview time, just kind of catching up with us this week. We will have more guests in the near future, and we also are soon going to be starting doing individual episodes on individual hockey movies. We'll watch them along with a friend or someone related to the movie, and then we'll get on and chat about them, and likely starting with Slapshot.
Yeah, these are my favorite kinds of podcasts that I listen to, are like a movie an episode, where whether it's something like How Did This Get Made, where it's a little bit more just strictly taking the piss out of it, or otherwise, like I like to be able to, whether it's a movie I know or if it's a movie I watch just for the episode, like I like those. That's what I listen to the most. So I'm very excited for us to dig into, not just dig into hockey movies, but dig into them with our newfound perspective on making them.
Now we have a legit reason to record what we think about hockey movies. And then we've got, we're getting quickly to our wider distribution. September 10th, the late game will finally be available in Canada on Apple TV for rent and purchase. It'll also be, in addition to Prime, where it is now in the US, it'll also be on Apple TV, on Fandango at home, and on a variety of cable boxes in on demand. So we're super excited about that, and we're going to do a celebration of being in Canada September 12th at the Scotiabank Pond in the Toronto area, North York, and should have some really great people that we'll be announcing soon there to join us. And, hope people join us at the Scotiabank Pond.
Yeah, I'm really pumped. It's a awesome venue. We do the Scotiabank Pro-Am there every May.
Yeah, Baycrest is awesome.
Yeah, Baycrest. Yeah, I knew there was 2 sponsors. But no, that's a great spot. I think it's gonna be a really good time. I think we've done enough of these now that we're pretty well-oiled machines. So I'm pretty stoked for Canadians to finally have a place to watch it, because I've certainly heard a lot of that, and I want them to be able to.
Yes, agreed. So with that, check out all the new stuff we've been putting out, and we will talk to everybody soon.